This is the School of Business. Today I'm going to be talking with Danny Engels. He's one of the co-founders at SalesEQ. It's a sales intelligence platform that helps reps analyze things like body language and tonality in order to help them close more sales. Sit back and enjoy the show. What made you start SalesEQ real quick?
I've sold technology in a variety of different roles and had a lot of experience firsthand with the different tech stacks and different tools that orgs have used. And during my experience using that tech stack, I noticed some shortcomings that I thought could be addressed. And I've also been teaching myself how to code. I have two very smart technical co-founders that are a lot more technical than me that have also helped me. But our core thesis was that sales calls and video calls are one of the richest sources of data that organizations have access to. Yet most tools only scratch the surface when it comes to the data they're actually getting from these sales calls. And what I mean by that is usually sales intelligence tools process analytics on what is said. So like you'll get notes, a follow-up email, etc., which is super helpful. But around 93% of the communication actually comes from things like body language, tonality, etc. And so we're aiming to tackle that 93% that's going completely untouched for the most part right now. And yeah, the to go back to your original question, the motivation behind that was both from my own experience as a seller, but then also some of the conversations we've had with different sales reps, leaders, and just people in the space.
So take me back to the moment that you kind of started to realize that this was a problem. What made you realize that? And how could somebody who might be dealing with it but not know figure out that they're not using their data properly?
Yeah, no, it's a great question. And I would say a big part of it comes through most organizations, sales organizations, will do call reviews with their sellers, managers, etc. And these call reviews will sometimes be coaching sessions, sometimes be more about strategizing on it. And what we noticed was a lot of times during these review calls, people wouldn't really do much with the notes after the call. They'd go back and rewatch the call. And while they were rewatching the call, they would be like, yeah, did you hear how he said that was why he wanted to move forward, though? It didn't seem like he was fully bought in. Or, yeah, I mean, he was kind of just saying yes and going with the motions, but he didn't sound that convicted. And we would hear things like that repeatedly. And we found that most organizations, to really figure out what's going on in a deal or with a specific account, still have to manually rewatch calls because you can see the notes, which tell you a bit. But if you really want to understand what happened, almost all the orgs we talk to are still fully rewatching calls, and the existing tools more or less function as like a video library with some notes attached to it. It'd be like trying to judge a YouTube video by its title and caption. Whereas like you get like the high level picture of what's going on, but to really understand the YouTube video, like you gotta watch it, right?
Right, like I believe you said scratch the surface, right? That's kind of what text-based does, right?
Yeah, exactly.
What are you going to be watching for when you're replaying a sales call?
Yeah, so it's interesting, right? The way we do our analytics now is we run an algorithm on the transcript of the call and finds key moments within that call. So we'll find things where objections were brought up, pricing was brought up, things like that. And then on those key moments, we fine tune some models to actually produce analytics on eye movement, eyebrow angle, head angle, voice tone, whether someone's voice is going up or down. And basically, what that enables you to do is during the key moments of a call, like when a rep is like, hey, yeah, thanks for going through that demo. Just to be clear, this is going to be priced at $50,000 a year. And right after they say that, the prospect's like, oh, okay, like 50,000. Yeah, okay. And they look away. They're agreeing to the price, but they're like looking away and they're not engaged. And that allows the rep and the team to go back and be like, okay, we brought up price. He seemed to acknowledge it, but that's going to be a risk in the deal moving forward. Maybe we should figure out some commercial incentives ahead of our next call with him to make sure that we can close this before whenever they forecasted the deal.
Right. So it's kind of sounds like a clear read on the data to be able to go ahead and make a accurate strategy going forward, I guess.
Yeah, that's exactly right. Yeah. Just giving people full information of what's really going on.
Well, I can tell you right now, I feel a little self-conscious. I'm like, there's a professional reading into my body language.
Oh, you're crushing it, man.
I appreciate that.
Yeah, like I feel like a big thing for a lot of people when they're selling is not listening. Not listening is one of the biggest things. So like if you rewatch back calls, a lot of times you can see a prospect will bring up concerns multiple times and the rep just won't acknowledge them or won't include them in their recommendation or their proposal, etc. And so like honestly, my opinion is that if you have really good listening skills, that's like the most important thing you can have to be a good seller. Everything else, like a lot of people think sales is about what you say, but it's really about solving a problem for people. And if you listen and understand their problem, you're going to be a top tier seller and just conversationalist.
How would you grow that skill if you're not naturally a good listener?
Yeah, I think a lot of times when people are talking to other people, they are talking to respond. And it's really tough because like socially you want to make sure that you're getting approval from other people. It's human nature that when you're talking to people you want to be liked and you want to be understood. And so a lot of people, their instinct is, well, to be liked, I just need to say things and do things that align with the interest of the person that's talking to me. But a lot of times the person they're talking to also thinks the same thing. And so what happens is like they both just say things they think will impress the other person without actually listening to what either of them is saying. And it's like almost like a pre-rehearsed dialogue just getting played out, but people aren't really adjusting what they're saying or listening to the other person. And I think for most people, the best way to improve it is just taking a step back and sitting with someone, listening to what they have to say, and just responding based off what they said, and not coming in with any sort of bottled up response or something that you think they would like to hear.
Just drop the mask completely.
Yeah,
pretty
exactly.
much. Which I mean that's really hard to do, especially once you have. It's hard enough in the first spot when you know you have a script, because I know a lot of people have a script, and then of course the incentive of wanting to get paid.
Oh yeah, 100%. And like in B2B sales especially, like a lot of younger reps that are in their 20s are talking to senior leaders that have been in their space for 30 plus years. Like if you're like a 26, 27-year old talking to a CIO that's been in tech for 30 years, like naturally you're going to be like, okay, like I don't want to sound stupid in front of this guy. I need to make sure I'm saying all the right things. But a lot of times those guys just, I mean, they're just like normal people. They have problems like the rest of us, and they want their problems to be fixed. And so that was a big reason we wanted to make SalesEQ, was kind of like taking a step back from all like the theatrics of sales and being like, at the end of the day, this is just talking to another person, trying to solve their problem. And we felt like a lot of the human and personal aspects of sales had kind of been removed in recent years with all the new technology. And so our approach to the technology was like, let's augment the people that are selling so they have a more human connection. They're not being robotic. They're actually listening to problems. They're solving real issues. And that's a big motivation outside of the initial problems we saw for making SalesEQ.
So I'm kind of curious, how are you guys doing that? Like, how are you keeping the human inside of sales? I mean, do you have anything to say about that? And how can I do that for my business?
It's interesting because the go-to-market tech space is blowing up right now in terms of popularity. There's a lot of people that have different AI SDRs or automations. Go to market engineering is really popular right now too.
What is it?
Yeah, so it's yeah, I don't know if you heard the term go to market engineering or not before, but basically it's like the idea of like someone that's somewhat technical building out different automations to help with sales and marketing efforts. So a lot of the times it's like scraping data from someone on the internet, creating a personalized LinkedIn or email campaign. Sometimes it's actually having like an AI agent cold call people, but with some of the regulations in the U.S., that's become a little bit more challenging. So not as many people are doing that. But yeah, a lot of people in go-to-market tech are focused on how can I take humans out of the equation and contact as many people as possible, personalize things. But our approach is kind of like, look, like at the end of the day, if you're selling to another business, you're selling to a person. You need to be able to relate to that person. You need to be able to understand what's going through that person's head. And so we believe that producing the additional analytics on body language and tonality can help give that insight to the human seller and ultimately help them better relate to the person they're selling to, better address their problems, etc.
So is this more geared towards sales managers who maybe are writing the scripts, or is it towards the actual sales rep themselves? Who would you say this benefits more?
Yeah, so from it's interesting. It's an interesting question because we produce body language and tonality analytics as well as our other analytics on both the buyer and the seller. So, from a rep perspective, it's most helpful from better gauging buyer sentiment, deal risk, um, basically figuring out an idea of where your current opportunities stand, how likely they are to close. And then from the management side of things, it's much more focused on forecasting accuracy, visibility into your organization, um, and coaching. It's almost like a performance management tool too, because like you said, a lot of organizations, they'll have sales enablement departments, they'll produce talk tracks or basic scripts for their reps to follow. But one rep following a talk track versus another following a talk track can lead to completely different results. Why is that? If you peel back the onion a little bit, it all comes down to the delivery, the body language, if you're actually tailoring it to the person you're talking to. Because leadership can put together all the scripts and talk tracks they want, but like most people have a pretty good idea if you're just reading from a script or you're just not very engaging. And so actually seeing what separates the top reps from the middle of the pack or the lower performers from the perspective of their tonality and their body language and kind of the intangible things that couldn't be measured previously is a huge value add to organizations, because that's a lot of times like the missing piece in terms of how to better enable how to get your middle performing and lower performing reps up to the caliber of your top performing reps.
And have you noticed too that like the top performing reps start outperforming the top performing reps, like the best of the best? You know
Yeah,
what I'm saying?
it's interesting. Yeah, because the top performing reps often get better at what they do once they see those analytics. It is interesting though, because like reps in general, like if you go to them and are just like, hey, like we have this new tool that's going to tell you how to sell better, their first instinct a lot of the time is like, I'm the top performing rep, I don't need some tool telling me how to sell better.
That's the
But
most sales rep mentality like I've ever heard.
yeah, it's funny, right? It's like,
Yeah,
and that's not the case for everyone. I'm kind of generalizing here,
right.
but yeah, it's interesting because but if you change the lens and say like, yeah, you can use it to improve yourself, but you can also use it to better understand where your deals are, that resonates much better with them. But then they end up using it to improve themselves too, but it's just like at their own discretion instead of like having it mandated by sales enablement or rev ops or whoever it is.
It's more on their own time,
Yeah,
basically.
yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
Which I know, at least for me, I mean, that's a huge incentive in itself.
Right, like You're super busy all the time. Like it's tough to coordinate a bunch of different calendars, as I'm sure you see.
Mm-hmm.
So
Oh
like
yeah.
having the ability as like a rep to kind of coach yourself and see what best practices are is super helpful because yeah, previously basically a lot of organizations would have like sales coaches, sales enablement platforms, and that's not going away by any means. But if you're a rep and you want to get coaching, usually you'd have to coordinate time with whoever your aligned coaches or whoever else and figure out like a 30-minute session where they don't have full context. And so now all your context is in one place. You can get analytics on a lot of the intangible things that weren't possible before and kind of coach yourself on your own schedule, on your own time.
So to talk a little bit about your experience so far, what are some things that you're going to be looking for in a great sales rep? You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Because I forget I forget if I asked something like this already. This might have been one of the first questions I asked.
Yeah, it's interesting because being a sales rep is the closest thing you can get to being an entrepreneur. To go back to your question on what I'd look for, you want people that are very entrepreneurial, very smart, empathetic, good listeners. I think the best traits to look for in a salespeople are someone that's entrepreneurial founder and someone that can pick things up really quickly. There's a lot of different nuances when you go from selling at one org to another. And people that can get up to speed on the value prop and how you differentiate get bought in quickly, and then have the agency of a founder entrepreneur to be like, okay, I'm going to do what it takes to close business. This is mine. I'm going to own this book. I don't care what state the territory was in when I got there. If like all of these clients swore they would never get any sort of sales intelligence tool, I don't care. I'm going to figure out how to turn around. And that kind of ownership and agency, I think, is most often found in people with some sort of entrepreneurial or founder backgrounds that are also just very good at teaching themselves, very smart, and can pick things up quickly.
For yourself now, can you tell me a little bit about what you were doing before you started Sales EQ? Because you do have a sales background, right?
That's correct. Yeah. So I've had a few different entrepreneurial endeavors. Like growing up, I was always doing some sort of entrepreneurial thing. So like when I was like 12, I'd go knock on people's doors and be like, "Can I shovel your driveway for $20?" So I do that. I resold sneakers for a little bit. I had a photo and video business where I made promotional videos for businesses, some professional sports teams, musicians. Did a little bit of weddings too. Had an e-commerce store where I resold popular name brands. And then corporate wise, I got my start in IT consulting and then got into tech sales and have been involved in tech sales for the bulk of my professional career. But kind of combining that with some of my previous entrepreneurial experience and technical background, and as well as being surrounded by very smart technical people, I've kind of gotten more into the software space and figuring out what the next evolution of thing I want to work on is.
How much would you say like all that stuff's kind of compounded over the years?
Yeah, it's compounded hugely, I would say. Like, I think, yeah, a lot of the different businesses that I'd run in the past, you could argue had shortcomings or failures for some reason. But if I didn't do those, like there's so many things I wouldn't have learned. Like, for example, recently when I was running this e-commerce business, it was doing pretty well. I scaled it up to a few $100,000 a year in revenue. But I didn't have a lean team. I didn't really know what my expenses were. I was entirely reliant on being able to sell on the Amazon platform, which had a lot of risk. And so, like doing things over, I was like, okay, I don't want to be reliant on a single platform. I don't want to expand my team before I'm ready. A bunch of things like that that all kind of add up through the experiences I've had over the years. If I hadn't had all these other experiences, I would have been in a much worse place because they were kind of able to compound over the years.
I wonder how many people stop after the first or second or even third business because they don't think that that's normal. You know what I'm saying?
Oh
Because
yeah.
I mean, everybody that I've talked to and that I've heard about has gone through at least 3, 4, 5 businesses before getting some kind of success. So I'm like, if you can just tackle those first few failures and be open to learning from them,
Yeah.
I mean, it can be a huge help down the road.
Yeah, 100%. And it's interesting because, yeah, a lot of people get very discouraged by failure, but I think reframing it has been something that's been very powerful for me and some of the other people I've worked with in terms of like you're kind of fail, but like the quicker you can fail and the more you can learn from it, the faster you can get to where you want to go. And it's about maximizing your at bats. So, like your iterations, where it's like, okay, this doesn't work out. Why didn't it work out? If we change this, would it work out? Yes. Let's change it. Try again. Okay, we changed this. It didn't work out for a different reason. What reason did not work out for now? Okay, change that. Try it again. And like the difference from where you are and where you want to be is just a lot of failures and iterations. And I think if people like there's like popular meme where I don't even know if it's a meme, but it's like a picture of Michael Jordan with like his 6 championship rings, and it's like, if you knew you were 30 failures from getting to where you wanted to be, would you stop? And like that resonates with me a lot because like I fail all the time. I fail every day to some extent, but like just knowing that like that failure is getting you closer to where you want to go is like, okay, that's all you need, you know?
It's like this is expected, you know.
Yeah, yeah,
Over time,
exactly.
you're just like, this is the game.
Yeah,
This is the
that's
game.
just part of the game. If you're not failing, you're probably doing something wrong.
And like you said about you want to get sales reps who are kind of like founders. I mean, that's basically the same thing with sales.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm trying to think if there's anything else in business that requires you to be able to take rejection and failures over and over again and just use them as learning points.
Oh yeah. I mean, sales, like you get rejected so many times. Even if you're like, obviously it depends on the product you're selling, but like, let's say you have a really, really good product, you're selling for a really good team, you might have like a 30 or 40% conversion on opportunities, which is like honestly pretty unheard of. So like even then you're still getting the door slammed on your face like more than half the time.
Off the top of your head, what is the biggest time you've been rejected, if you don't mind me asking?
I would say there's probably been a few different times. There've been a few customer calls where like we had like told the customer something and then like, we'd show them the product and basically just got laughed out of the room really early on. That hasn't happened recently. A lot of times trying to raise money, um, you get laughed out of the door, and then different investors tell you different things. Like I remember when we were trying to raise money for a different company, one investor told us, it was like, hey, like yes, this is kind of a cool idea, but I don't think the market is big enough. We had a meeting with a different investor the following day. It was just like, hey, like I like this idea, but the market's too big. You guys are going to need a ton of capital to really succeed. After that, I was just like, okay, so like nobody really has an idea of, of what's going.
Nobody knows what they're talking about.
Yeah, so like there's tons of rejection stories like that. I'd say like the biggest ones are like early on in the product where we would show like before we even had a product built out, we had like a prototype that we would show people, and people would just be like, "Yeah, no, this is like completely irrelevant. We don't need to see this." And there were a few stories like that. There was a lot of stories like that early on, and then we'd go back to the same people with a more built out product, and they'd just be like, holy shit, man, like this is exactly what we needed. And I think it's just like sticking through the initial rejection and learning where you can that really makes a difference.
What made you stick with it after hearing those first few people turn it down?
Yeah, I think we just had conviction in the vision and the problem we were solving. And so we have a very big vision for the product. And like even still with our product being more sophisticated and built out now, we have a lot of work we want to do in terms of getting it to where we really believe our ultimate vision is. And as we get closer to the vision that we have and that we've learned from our own experience and through talking to tons of sales professionals, as we show people, it's like more and more starting to click. And it doesn't click all the time still, but like the trends in how people are seeing the product as we continue to build it out is pretty validating. And so like even though we still get a lot of rejections and failures, the rejections and failures are a little less bad than they were. And like that's enough for us to be like, okay, this is real. We're gonna keep pushing forward. And now we have a bunch of people piloting it, and all the initial results from the pilot have been very strong. And so like that's kind of given us the conviction to keep pushing through and just realize, you're not going to win every deal, but as long as you're improving, you're going in the right direction.
Man, that's got to be so reassuring once you start seeing the positive feedback.
Oh yeah, it's so reassuring, especially with this, because like with some of the other things I've done, I did a lot of like service-based businesses where like I was kind of just adopting someone else's business model, like shoveling snow off people's driveways. Like obviously that's a proven business model. Like people don't want snow on their driveways, but building a software from the ground up, it's a different beast because you literally take nothing and you turn it into something, and you're just there every step of the way. You're doing something that's not necessarily proven. And so like once people start validating the idea and it starts working for people, it's like it feels so different. And we're still a long way from where we want to go, don't get me wrong, but like the progress we've made has been super super exciting and reassuring.
Man, I'm sure, because when I first started in business, I wanted to get into SaaS. And as I started to, I was like, oh, this is like the absolute hardest type of business to get into.
Yeah.
So to actually talk to somebody who's had some like actual success so far is awesome.
Yeah, no, it's tough. Building out a SaaS solution from the ground up is not easy, but building a business up from the ground up under any circumstance is not easy. And then there's a lot of businesses out there, like in hardware and hard tech, like people building out robotics and stuff. Then I look at them and I'm just like, holy shit, man! Like I'm like so far away from doing something like that right now. I can't imagine like what that's like. Um, so it's funny because like no matter what stage I've been at, like what kind of business I'd had, I was always kind of like, okay, like I guess I'm doing well here, but like that's nothing compared to the person here. And then like it's kind of like training in the gym too. Like once you start making progress, you're like, oh cool. But then like you go to a different gym and you see someone else that's way bigger, way strong, and you just kind of realize like the goalposts are constantly moving.
That's a great way of putting it, because man, you're so right. Like you open up Instagram and you see like all this crazy stuff, like put out like 50 reels per day, and how I make $7,000 my first 3 months, or like $7,000 a month in my first 3 months.
Yeah.
So
Oh,
it's good. It's kind of reassuring to hear you say that.
yeah, it's funny too because I don't know if I told you this last time we spoke, but I've actually done some bodybuilding competitions when I'm not working on when I'm not working on software. And yeah, the first competition I ever did, I kind of was just training myself. I was constantly looking at Instagram, trying to find other people who are competing in the competition, comparing myself against them. And then actually got to the competition, got dead last. And I was like,
Mm.
shoot, okay, like that doesn't feel that good. I was working really hard for this and like just completely flopped. Afterwards, did some reflecting, got a coach, started working hard, just listened to what my coach told me. And yeah, the main difference I made between my first show and my second show was just comparing myself to what I was previously. It was just me versus me. I wasn't paying attention to what anyone else was doing. I was just trying to get a little bit better every day I was training. And the second show comes around, I end up getting first place. And literally the only difference was I was just focused on myself, becoming a better version of myself every time I was training. And before I went into the show, I was almost just like, I don't even care about the outcome because I know that this version of me is better than the last version of me that competed. And I kind of carry that mindset over into my work now because there's always people raising crazy money, doing crazy things. But if you focus on just improving what you're working on and becoming the best version of yourself, your business, whatever it is, that's where I've kind of seen the most progress happen.
That's really great advice. And I feel like everything has like a set rule. Like there's set rules that apply to everything, and I think that's definitely one of them. So I mean, you look at the gym, you look at sports, you look at business, entrepreneurship, sales, right?
Right.
And that mindset of like competing against yourself to get better and not comparing always seems to outweigh comparing.
Yeah, definitely. And it's always a trap comparing too because of what we said. Like there's always someone out there that's doing some version of what you're doing to a bigger extent. But maybe they've been working on their business for 10 or 15 years. Like you never know where people start, you know, what's going on. And so like the only way to really continuously progress without driving yourself crazy is to focus on just becoming the best version of yourself.
1% better every day.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And then it compounds like you were saying earlier.
What are some of the biggest differences? Hold on, I always forget to like say switch topics, but we're switching topic.
Yeah.
What's the biggest difference between a service business and a SaaS business based on your experience?
I think the main thing is the ability to scale. This is changing with AI agents now, but historically, to scale a service business, you needed more human labor. Um, and if you need more human labor is the biggest expense for any business right now. And humans are like I'm saying humans like I'm not a human, but like when you start hiring people, there's additional complexity with management. You need their benefits, you need to make sure they're happy, etc. The cool thing about SaaS is you build a software, you build an agent, you build some sort of technology. As you build that technology, it can then go one to many, whereas the services business is often one to one. And so, like, historically, that's what's made SaaS businesses so appealing is because you can make a software and you can onboard hundreds, thousands of clients with the same existing software, assuming all your infrastructure and everything's done well. Like this, I'm oversimplifying it. But yeah, so like the biggest difference is ease to scale, I would say, because with with scaling additional human labor comes a lot of additional complexity that you don't need if you're scaling a technology business.
So, as for scaling, do you guys have any plans right now for hiring, or are you just planning on sticking with you guys for now?
Yeah, right now we're planning on sticking with ourselves. I th- we're not opposed to hiring new people, but because we're just kind of bootstrapped right now, we're running a pretty lean operation. And our general philosophy is to not bring on additional people or resources until like we're so overloaded with work that like we can't function basically.
And I mean, I guess that's kind of possible to have that lean functioning business because it's a SaaS, right?
Yeah, exactly. And now with like all the different technology out there, like a lot of our coding work is done with the help of different coding agents via Cloud Code, Codex,
Man, Claude's
Cursor.
awesome, isn't it?
Yeah, it's so cool, right?
Yeah.
It's crazy. And so like the amount of work a small team can do now compared to what they've been able to do historically has dramatically changed. Like over the last ChatGPT came out fall 2022, I believe. In the past 3.5 years, the amount of work that small teams can get done is crazy. There's a software out there called Base 44. I don't know if you heard of Base 44 or not.
I've seen the ads for it, but
Yeah,
nothing else.
they had some big Super Bowl ads, I think. They they were acquired by Wix, but before they were acquired by Wix, it was one guy that built this whole business himself, and they got acquired from by Wix 6 months after this guy launched for I believe 80 million or so dollars. Uh,
Jeez,
yeah, and so
that's
like
insane.
it's a solo founder getting to an $80 million exit by himself in 6 months.
Which, I
And
mean, that's unheard of 10, 15 years ago.
yeah, completely unheard of. And like these stories are just going to continue to get more and more normal and popular because of how good the tech's getting. And even with services businesses, like a lot of the traditional like administrative work of services business can now be delegated to an AI agent. And now the people that are working in services businesses can be 10x more productive than they were. And so like I think we're getting to a point here where just the amount of work and productivity that people have is just going to get more and more crazy to see.
I know for myself, it takes off a lot of the not only mental load, but Like I burn so much mental energy trying to, turn a blank page into something good,
Oh
and
yeah,
like it takes that away because you're not
yeah,
starting with a blank page anymore.
100%. Yeah, and yeah, it helps so much with administrative tasks as well. Like in sales, if you're doing research on a prospect, there's ways to do that quickly now. Like tools like ours, sales intelligence platforms, are giving you more details on the things you need to do to close more business. It's just going to continue to get crazier, even sooner than people think. I believe, at least by the end of 2026, like the work landscape is going to be completely different than it was at the beginning of the year.
Really, you think so?
I think so. Yeah.
How do you think? Like, what's some of the first changes you think we'll see?
Yeah. So I think a lot of these tools and technologies now are becoming more autonomous and they're able to take action. And so, like, there are more and more stories about agents being given traditional knowledge work type tasks, like agents doing the work of a financial analyst, analysts doing the work, or not analysts, sorry, agents doing the work of a paralegal, um, agents doing the work of like a marketing associate. And like these agents are kind of start taking on more and more work that historically had only been reserved for people, which is part of the reason that scaling services businesses now is becoming easier and easier and more similar to scaling a SaaS business.
Do you have any like recommendations for tools? I know you mentioned Base 44. What are the ones?
Yeah, there's a ton of really good tools out there as far as like being productive and getting more done. But you can get pretty far with the main providers like Anthropic with Claude, ChatGPT, or OpenAI with ChatGPT, Google with Gemini. And so I think there's still a lot of low hanging fruit that people can use those models for that they're not. And so, like, outside of all the different more niche agents, like in the legal space or in the health space or wherever in the finance space, like a lot of the general tools that are out there right now, people are just scratching the surface in terms of like what they can do with them.
Now, obviously, AI is a huge help in analyzing sales calls. Have you seen like any way it's been actually a useful help in sales? Because I mean, cold calling with AI, I'm not sold on it. Like,
Yeah.
is that something you would try to sell me on?
So I think the voice agents are continuing to get better. 11 Labs and companies like 11 Labs are doing super, super cool work on the voice agents. I saw a clip today of like an 11 Labs agent resolving a customer support issue. And it was tough to tell that it wasn't human. But I still think that sales in general is going to be one of the last jobs that is outsourced to AI, just because a lot of times you're communicating with people, you have to deal with different intricacies. And that's kind of why our approach isn't to remove the person, but to augment them and to help them double down on that and become more personable and figure out what the subtleties are in their conversations so they can improve on them. Because what's measured is managed. And so we think that by instead of trying to remove the human from the sales equation like some of the AI cold callers are, we think that we need to empower the humans to do better work and understand who they're talking to more deeply.
That's so good. So not replace them,
Yeah,
but make
no,
them even better.
exactly, yeah.
Any advice for anybody like myself who is just starting to get serious about business?
Yeah, I think like in general, like as long as you find something to work on, really apply yourself to it and get a little bit better every day, you'll start seeing the results you want eventually. If you do that over a long enough time frame, it's literally impossible to lose. My advice to anyone is just to not give up, keep working. One of my favorite pictures is Elon Musk standing next to a rocket that blew up on the SpaceX launch, like with his head down, just like, oh my God. And then obviously in the past year, they've been able to reuse some of the rocket boosters. And I think, yeah, if you just don't quit, you stay in the game for long enough and you do the right things, you'll find success eventually.
How much do you think it comes down to finding your personal why?
That's huge. You have to really be passionate about what you're working on because there are going to be so many trials and tribulations. Like you're going to get the door slammed on your face countless times. You kind of fail so many times. And if you're not passionate about what you do and you don't have your why dialed in, it's hard to be like, okay, like these failures are just part of the game. It's worth it. So you need a really strong reason like that and a strong mission that's kind of driving you because you're kind of fail a lot. And to be able to stay motivated through those, you got to make sure that you're doing something that's in line with your personal interest, what you want to be doing, whether that's helping the world, becoming the best version of yourself, whatever it is, supporting your family.
I know 100% what you mean, because even though you know like the failures, or even if you can make that mindset shift and know that the failures are just getting you closer to your goal, it still sucks.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
So definitely, yeah. Well, I mean, I think this is a great place to wrap up. So let's pretend you're in front of like 50 first-time entrepreneurs. What's the one thing you'd say?
Yeah, the main thing is just to not give up. You're going to get told no. You're going to get told your idea sucks. You're going to get told that you're never going to figure it out. Um, if you stay in the game and you do the right things for long enough, you're going to win. The hardest part is staying in the game. There's so many failures, and it's very hard to take all of those failures, internalize them, and make yourself better position yourself, better position your company. But if you can do that and you stay in the game, you'll win. That's kind of what my mindset has been, and that's kind of what the mindset of people that I look up to has been. And I would not say we're at anywhere close to where we want to be, but we just keep that in the back of our minds and we build out what we think and what our customers want, and a product that we believe will make a positive impact on the world and help people. Because we are so convicted in that, we know that if we just stay in the game, like things are going to work out the way we want them to.
Danny, it's been a pleasure, man.
Yeah, likewise. Really appreciate you having me on.
Yeah, thanks again for coming on. I'm listening. Where can I connect with you?
Feel free to connect with me on LinkedIn, Danny Angles. I'm pretty active on there for the most part. And if there's anything I can do to help anyone listening, feel free to reach out to me. I always love talking to aspiring entrepreneurs or just helping any way I can.
And I can say right now, I can vouch for that. Me and Danny had a conversation a month ago, and he was a huge help, and it's been great knowing him so far. So looking forward to getting to know you more.
Definitely. And thanks again for having me.